Hey everybody.
Hey,
Hey Megan.
hey,
How are
Debbie.
how you doing?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you. I see you are in your arena.
I am. I
Looks good.
just finished the lesson, so I couldn't hurry and get to the house in time. So here we are,
So
dirty and
here we
all.
are. That's great. That's great. So tonight we are back on I'm back in my home office slash whatever, and apologies for to figure out this there, that's better.
There's my office, right?
Yeah, we're
Ooh,
both
I
in our
can't.
offices. I think that's cool. I have been for the last, gosh, how is it been 4 or 5 weeks? I've come to your farm, driven, visited you and your property. We've done some like live at Lindinhof live streams.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So
We'll have to do it again.
yeah, couldn't do it this time, just couldn't make it work. But we are going to be discussing tonight, I think a great topic, and that's basically anxiety or show nerves. So before we get started, of course, want to thank you for taking your time to do this. And I have put your contact information below, and we'll circle back to that at the end of the live stream. We always do, but for for those who are tuning in, and we actually have a couple people saying hello. So you need to be logged into YouTube to use the live chat feature, and please feel free to do so. You can ask questions of us. I will, as an example here, one busy mama, hello, shout out to you. I can flash them on the screen so that Megan can see them and we can discuss any questions you might have. So please feel free to, go ahead and use that live chat. Appreciate it very much. Also, if you can turn your ad blockers off, and especially when this is going to be available via YouTube on demand. YouTube appreciates getting paid for this, and they allow us to do this for free, which we both appreciate very much. So if you do have questions, again, post them in the live chat. I will go ahead and put them on the screen. And then also, if you want to help support the channel and these live streams, there is via YouTube what's called a super sticker or super chatter feature, which would be appreciated as well. But yeah, we definitely want to know if anybody has questions about this. I think this is kind of a hot topic. I think this will get a lot of views when it's back on demand. I remember, Megan, it's been a while since I've shown a horse, but I remember the show nerves are legit.
They're the real deal. And the reason I thought of this topic was last weekend I had two of my students go to Region 2 championships at Lamplight, and they are it was their first season and first time ever going to a regional championship. So I've coached a lot of adult amateurs, and I'm always waiting for something to happen because they don't have a lot of mileage in the show arena, and I tell everyone that you need mileage. And so I thought, wow, what a great topic. It's just current, and it's really in the back of my mind for this weekend or last weekend.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I just flashed onto the screen just so people remember, if you got questions, use the live chat. Megan and I are using a software called StreamYard, and Megan, maybe you can point to it above your head there over your left shoulder. Left shoulder. Yeah, right there. So
Everything's backwards.
yeah, everything's a little bit backwards. So anyway, it's basically what I'm getting at is the live chat is delayed for us probably by 30 to 60 seconds. But we will see it eventually. So appreciate that. But yeah, I actually thought this was quite timely because so many regional championships are going on, and then of course so many have been canceled, and unfortunately finals have been canceled as well. But yeah, I mean, do you get show nerves anymore, Megan?
Totally. Yeah, I do. And everybody thinks I'm joking, but everyone wants to do well. It doesn't matter if you're a professional or you're an adult amateur. And, you know, Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
There we go. You
Uh-oh.
dropped off really briefly. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. We're back again. Well, I am in the barn. Sorry, guys. But yeah, like I obviously as a professional, we have different pressures than maybe an adult amateur for her first show. But like for myself, if it's my personal horse, actually, it's obviously a lot of fun. There really isn't a lot of pressure, except, if anyone's watching, you want to do well as a professional. However, when I have an owner that is paying me to show their horse, there's a ton of pressure. I've also had various owners, and I've even had an owner say, "Well, I expect you to get 70% today," and so
No pressure, Megan.
yeah, like, the night before as we're all going out to dinner and that's a lot of pressure. Like I totally want to get that 70%. Actually, I want to get 75. However, realistically, you never know what's going to happen. And I mean, obviously you train for that, but so and then I've had other owners that were scared for me to ride their horse.
Why?
That
Why
because
scared? Like,
it was a young horse, or maybe there's on the showgrounds, the showgrounds may not be so safe and the horse might be spooky. I've had owners cry. That's a lot of pressure, right? And obviously the pressure of like they've paid me to train the horse and now they're paying for the horse show. We all want it to do well. So
well, yeah,
that's a little different.
that's I mean, I don't know that we can break this down. Neither one of us is a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but we can certainly come to it from our own personal point of views. I think some of it definitely is, it is not inexpensive to take a horse to a horse show anymore. At least in this sport and dressage and any kind of um, any kind of travel involved that gets expensive. First of all, you've got the cost of hauling an animal, whether you're doing it with your own vehicle or whether you're paying someone such as yourself to haul them. You've got, assuming that you're hauling any great distance, you've got the cost of meals in the hotel. Obviously, you're going to have the stabling, and then, of course, just all the general fees involved in attending a horse show. If it's a USEF, USDF event, you have a number of fees, just fees to just basically show up in the showgrounds, and then, of course, your class fees. But you know, what would you say an average weekend might cost somebody? I'm figuring $800 to $1,000 possibly, depending on distance and location.
Yeah, I would say 500 to 1,000. It depends, if people pack their own food or maybe they share the hotel, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's very expensive. So there's a lot of pressure and some people only get to show 3 times a year and everyone wants to do well. And so when everyone wants to do well, I've noticed that's when exciting things happen, like forgetting the test or, you know, they get sick, and it's our stress, our tension that create those things that happen. And so like for instance, last weekend I had been just waiting for something to happen. And because, both ladies had shown before at a recognized show, but this was a regional and they had never been at the facility and it's huge. It's intimidating. It's not the same routine, the fear of the unknown. And so, um, you know, and you can't have a reader, all of these things. And, the class is much larger and that pressure to do, they've done really well all year. And then, of course, sometimes that backfires on us. So,
Right.
I was really proud of my students. They were both in the top 10, but there were issues, in terms of remembering the test. And and of course, it's unfortunate, but they got to show. Like, let's be realistic. And I think
Every
at the end of the day, what's really important, I think, for adult amateurs to remember, this is not your day job. Like
You're
no
supposed to
one,
be having fun.
yeah, it's fun. And like, don't put, I
Absolutely.
mean, we all want to win. Your trainer wants you to win. I mean, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it does. But at the end of the day, you get to go home and go back to your day job. So don't put all that pressure of, what I hear a lot of is like, I don't want to embarrass you. I don't want to embarrass myself. And
Yep,
but
that
really,
starts
I mean,
the pressure immediately. The head games we play
yeah.
with ourselves. So let's
And
let's
what's
let's delve into that.
yeah.
So we have obviously put pressures on ourselves. First of all, you've got the pressure all year. If this is your goal is to go to regionals, for instance, your pressure on yourself at every show is I have to hit X percentage to qualify, right? And what is it?
Well, it's different for every level and it's different per division. So, I mean, I'd have to look that up. I honestly don't know, but when you plot out your shows and you need to know what your score is, but I can tell you right then and there, that is the first mistake. What you really should be doing is making goals. Like, what is the goal of the horse show? Obviously, number one is to have fun, but I don't say that lightly. Like, people really don't listen to that first goal. And then number two, like, is it remembering your posting diagonal? Is it remembering your test? um, Working on suppleness, that the horse really comes through the right rein. Like you should pick 3 goals, whatever they are, and focus on those 3 goals for the horse show. Because the biggest problem is I find with my students is they focus on the end goal, whatever it is, whether it's regionals, whether it's a score for a bronze medal, whether it's a score for a freestyle. And I can tell you, or they want to beat someone, anyone in the class, or right. And so they fixate on those goals, and that's when they don't ride well. And myself
So
included.
so let's say you spoke just recently, just a few minutes ago. You said you had 2 students. This is their first year of showing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
first season.
if you say you have somebody, they've gone to the first show and it didn't go well because their anxiety and their nerves got to them. You talked about like memorizing your test. If you had somebody that said, Megan, I am so nervous. I know I'm gonna just. I know myself. I know I'm gonna just. I'm gonna get in there, and I'm not even gonna remember to halt. Like I'm gonna draw a blank. Do you step back and say, okay, I'll hold your hand. We'll get a test reader.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
you know,
I think
obviously, like
it's
you said, at regionals they can't have that. But like, do you get that often where somebody's like, I know I'm gonna be a basket case. I know I'm just gonna be so nervous and anxious, like. And
um
everybody handles it differently. Some people, like their anxiety gets so bad, like they turn their hearing off. And even if you were a
oh yeah.
test reader, they wouldn't hear you. Like they're so anxious, they don't even hear. You know what I mean? Like they may not hear the bell or the whistle from the judge.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I've had some of those, but I find like they come in phases. Like each year there's different students that happen. So like this year I have a year of people who don't want a reader. Like it annoys them to hear someone's voice. But what's funny is one of those
Sure,
students, it annoys her, but then she literally goes blank in the arena. And if there is anyone that I want to have a reader, it's her.
sure.
And she refuses to have a reader. And so, you know what? It is, it's her show, it's her money. And if she wants to lose those points because, she's stubborn about it, then I let her, I mean, that's the other thing. Part of it is like, you cannot make people do things, right? And
Right.
sometimes as a coach, you just have to let them learn. And so I let them, but I personally, if you're at all nervous, have a reader. I mean, my God, especially during the show season. Obviously, at regionals, you can't, but like if you're at home and you know the test, I mean, they have to know the test before they go to the horse show. Like, that's a must. But like the first couple of shows, yeah, have a reader. It's so silly not to. And then, if you want to try it before regionals, um, then ride at a show without a reader. But like it's silly. And I did that once, a long time ago. I had a client and I went off course. I'll never do that again with someone else paying for, me to show their horse. I mean, it's just silly. And of course, I was riding 3 tests. And of course, that third one, I'm going to be muddled. I mean, I got through the 2, but the third one, I was like, ah. So I should have had a reader. So I won't do that again. But
Well, yeah, I
um,
mean, let's say that you have. Okay, let me back that up before I even ask that question. What is your limit on the number of horses you will take for you to show at a horse show? I mean, will
maybe
you show
3.
4 horses at a horse show? Will you show 6? Will you show only 2? Like,
I mean,
if
I
you've
think
got a bunch of horses, they're in training and, people are pushing, I want to take my horses to all these shows, and maybe you've got 3 or 6. What will you say? Okay, this is a packed schedule. This is a lot of horses for me to be taking and warming up and showing and.
I've taken 9 and it was a mix between me riding 3 and 6 students. And
Mhm.
I can tell you, you don't do a good job. Like,
Well, that would
so
be
me,
tough because you're not only having to warm up the horses you're showing, but I'm
mhm,
assuming you're having to jump off and run and warm up your students.
yeah. Yeah, it's a
So,
lot. I mean, I
so
think
what
3 is better.
what about let's take the students out of it. What personally for horses for you to ride and show, like what do you think is your limit on, boy, this is just going to make things chaotic. Like I don't want to take more than 6,
3.
3. Yeah.
I mean, of course I will take more, but I mean, realistically, like
Mhm.
especially if you're doing, FEI, like you want to stay focused. If you have a bunch of greenie horses and they're lower levels and you're just getting mileage on them, okay, more. However, like I'd rather be specialized personally.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've taken 6. That's 6 students and 3 horses, so 9 total.
Yeah, that was my limit. Like,
That's a
I
lot.
mean, I'm pretty good, but like most shows I take 7.
Yeah.
And that's a ton of work. And I would love to just go to a show where I'm showing and then other shows that I have students and I'm just coaching. I really this regionals I had only 2 students
Mhm.
and I had 4 that qualified. But while I was there, it was really great because then I could really focus on those 2 students, give them extra attention, be there. That's another thing. Like, I have one who, like, they're total opposites. One wanted her hand held, and she expressed that. And so I made sure that I did that for her. And then I have another one who just, you just stand there and wait. And, you just wait. And so it was great not to have so many students there. So I could just do a better job, I feel. When you have so many, it's hard because you're spread in so many situations. And normally that's I'm great under pressure. Like I go, 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 go. Like for instance, when I have the 6 students, I mean, they are all different. One cries, one gets angry, one wants hand holding, one doesn't want you to talk. If you're coaching and you're just coaching like normal, one will be like, "Why are you yelling at me?" And you're like, "I'm not, I'm just coaching you." And then you just, maybe say 1 or 2 or 3 words and that's it, whereas another person wants you to talk all the time.
So
So,
let's
but
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
So let's talk about, like, have you kind of discovered some personal things you do to kind of help you calm your, any personal show nerves? Have you,
Oh, yeah, for
do
sure.
you,
Like
do you
we
put music on, or what do you do?
yeah. So like we keep a same routine, obviously for the local shows, like Generally, we like to have the same stalls. If the show secretary is open to that, I ask for the same stalls. I set my tack room up the same way. I usually have the same roommate if I have a roommate. We actually usually get the same room at the hotel, so there's a comfort in that, right?
Familiarity. Okay.
Yeah. And
good.
me personally, I prefer not to have people talk to me an hour before I get on. However, when I'm the coach and going with all my students, that's never going to happen. I've had to learn how to adapt. They're always interrupting me, before I'm supposed to get on. So you have to learn to adapt. So that's also another reason, like, I like to go to a show by myself, because then I don't have someone interrupting me, because I'll tell you, as soon as I start tacking up my horse, that's when I'm going to get an interruption. And in terms of music, yeah, I have a headset so nobody else can hear. However, I used to, like, everyone always wanted to be my neighbor because I was always playing 80s music and, like, busting it out. And, like, luckily I have a lot of friends at the horse shows, and, like, they're like, "Hey, Megan!" So
What kind
I'm
of
lucky.
music? Are we talking the Go-Go's, or are we talking like rock, or what are we talking here? Soft rock, hard rock, like
So,
Go-Go's,
so
pop?
well, it depends on the horse I'm riding. If it's a lazy horse, it's going to be rock, and if it's a hotter type of horse, it's going to be like soft 80s music, some 90s, and then of course I love my Bruno Mars. And now that I have Pandora, it's usually Disco Fever or Bruno Mars. And I love my Bruno Mars. That's usually who I ride to. But then, like, at the horse show, he fails me every time. He puts on these slow, sappy songs, and I'm like, I got to get it pumped up. Eye of the Tiger. And then,
Do you ever We Are the
yep.
Champions with Queen?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, big shout out to our friend
Hey,
Dawn.
Dawn.
Thanks for joining us, Dawn. We appreciate it. Good to see you. And by the way, everybody, if you've got questions, make sure you can feel free to use the live chat feature that is available via YouTube. Post them in the live chat, and we'll see what we can do about that. Yeah. So
Let me tell you a couple other things I do. So for my student, well, for me, I usually like to, I like to have good food. So I don't do fast food. So I think that's really important. Like, not Mexican, but usually the first night we go out for sushi, and then the second night we go to, like, Italian or a steakhouse. So for me, that's comfort food. So I try to make sure I don't eat too much garbage. And then, what was the other thing? So for my students, I think it's really important in actually getting them off the show ground. So when it's not a COVID year, I like to go and get manis and petties, or go to a movie theater. Just get them doing something fun, because, like, they like to go to the horse show and sit there and think about everything that is going to go wrong.
sure.
So that's usually what happens.
So Peter asks if you work with any special needs children or veterans, especially there are a lot of veterans that work with animals for kind of working on their PTSD. And yeah, shout out to the long hair 80s days. But do you
Um,
do that at all?
Thank you for that question, Pete. I do not. About a block away, there is a wonderful facility that is more qualified than I am, and that's Three Gates. I don't know about for veterans, but for anyone with special needs, they are certified and qualified and have horses um, that are qualified to do that. So I would not open the door to that, because I think I would need more training.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of different types of horses, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So thanks, Pete, for the question. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Circling back, so I think music is a good one. Do you ever find that people need to just maybe before even tacking up, they kind of walk away to a quiet, kind of like a quiet spot in the showgrounds, maybe out by parking, and kind of just maybe they're going through their test in their mind, maybe they're meditating.
Oh yeah, I have a student that goes off maybe in her car, or she has a chair, she goes sits, like there's some trees at the showgrounds, and usually 2 hours before her ride she does that. I have another student that she's walking her test like for 2 hours, because she struggles with memory issues, and she doesn't want a reader. So she is walking through her tests.
So, do you find that sometimes people, does walking work better for some and just some? I think I see a lot of, sometimes you'll see people, they're, you can see they're walking, they might be off to the side, they're like focused, they're kind of looking off, and you can see they're kind of doing, maybe drawing the test in the air,
That's
or
what
maybe
I do.
on a piece of paper and they're, charting it.
That's what I do. I chart it, and then I also close my eyes and then I visualize it. I would say older people. I do have a young rider that she gets a little bit nervous, but I would say older people get a lot more nervous than younger people. Like the other thing, I think older riders get so focused on their goals. I mean, I am a goal-oriented person, so I understand it and I ask them what their goals are, and so they just get totally focused in on it. And what I've really enjoyed right now, I have a young rider on the team, and I don't tell her about anything. Like we're just riding the test. I don't like let her last show. We went and she got qualified at first level. She had no idea that she was getting qualified for first level, and she got her freestyle score. Like we just have fun. And if her horse isn't on the bit, we don't care. She just went in and rode her tests, and then we just like, okay, well, we got to work on these things, but great job. Now take care of your horse, spend time with him.
So
So
sometimes not really knowing, um, the I don't want to say the details, but things like what it takes to qualify, not even having those discussions, helps alleviate kind of the
oh
nerve.
yeah, for sure. I
Like,
had like a super, super intense adult amateur that I taught, and her goal was to get her bronze, and she is very motivated and totally fixated on it. And so I actually lied to her. She needed 2 scores at third level. And I don't like lying to people, so I had a really hard time. And if she wasn't as nervous, she would have known I lied to her. And so she asked me, she goes, well, Megan, am I going to get my bronze medal this weekend if I get 260s? And I was like, nope, not at all. You have to have 2 different shows. And that's a lie. So you need 2 different shows if there's only one judge, but there were 2 different judges at this show. So she had the potential to get 260s and get her bronze. And thank God I lied to her, because she got, I don't know what she got, but she got well over 60. And so when she got her second score, I was like screaming and jumping up and down. And she was like, what? I go, you just got your bronze. And she was like, what? I
like,
thought, because I lied to her, I said, no, you can't. And she was like, I thought you needed 2 shows. And I go, I lied to you. You needed 2 judges.
you're like,
And if I hadn't lied to her, it would have taken her 8 shows, because she
yeah,
would have been so tense and riding for the score. And I think that's the key, but that's so hard. I mean, I totally understand it, because I've been training a horse. I really want to do well. I do want to get a certain score, but if you focus on how much you want something, you naturally tense up. And so, then you're not going to get the score. But if you ride for the suppleness, the fluidity, you're going to do well.
yeah. So
Those,
Pete wants to know if
music.
the music changes. I think you kind of already talked about this, but you said sometimes you need to slow the Bruno Mars and sometimes you need to speed him up.
Oh yeah. Well, but really it's me. Like, so if I am like, I like to get pumped up. Like I love to compete. So I'm very different from my clients. Like I'm like, woo, screaming, getting jacked up. And whereas my clients need like quieter, easy, because they're already like their nerves. See, I've had so many things happen in the arena. So I'm like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It doesn't, whereas they have not had that experience of going down silent. They don't know what's going to happen when they go off course and the judge rings the bell. They don't know what's going to happen, when there's a thunderstorm and they may have to stop, or the bridle breaks, or the stock tie falls off, or they go off course, like they don't know, so they're like, ah, whereas I'm like, bring it. Let's do these things. But also the other thing is freestyles. Oh my God. I love freestyles because their music turns on and they hear the music and they just like they get in the swing of the music, right? And then they relax. Whereas when it's like a test and there's no music, no background music playing, and you can hear a pin drop, like you just get more and more tense, and then something's gonna happen.
Sure.
So I highly recommend freestyle. Obviously, you can't listen to a headset and listen to music when you're riding your test, but you can in your warm up. I forgot. I listen to music in my warm ups. So I'm listening to music. I'm jamming out as I'm warming up my horse, and then I have to give the person who has the green bag. One of my students. I have to give him the headset
The
before I
green
go.
bag.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah,
green bag. The
that is
green
good.
The green bag has everything in it. It has white gloves, it has a rag, it has water. Actually, it has multiple rags for your face and whatever else. The test book, headsets. Now it has a mask. Like it has everything in it. You want the green bag.
That's great. That's great. That's great. So let's talk about like when do you see your students starting to feel the anxiousness or the nerves about, does it often wait until like day that you're hauling to the show? Do you find that 2 weeks prior they know it's there? Like what's generally
It
what's the cutoff
begins
for a show for entering? Is it 10 days out or 2 weeks out for entering?
whatever. It begins as soon as they sign up for that horse show. Their riding is going well. They sign up for the horse show and the riding starts to deteriorate immediately. The head chatter, just like da, 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 and you're like, where is this coming from? Do you even want a show? Da, 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 da. And then you're like, oh man. And then sometimes even the week of the show, like they have their worst ride ever, and then they're just like, I'm a failure. I can't go. And you're like, oh man. And so the other thing that happens too is at the end of so show season is rough because like that starts to happen and things happen during show season. And I tell them every time, I'm like, as soon as show season ends, your riding is going to get 10% better. And they're like, what? And I had that happen today. A student, it's the end of her show season. She's done. She got her silver medal. And she's like, Megan, you were right. I just feel so much better. And I'm like, it's a thing. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Oh, the other thing too, and this isn't regarding show nerves, but I think it's like, I guess you could call it etiquette. Like when you leave the arena, I think it's important not to have your coach or your friend who's come, or even you, tell you all the horrible things that went on in your test. Like if you have a great test, just enjoy it until you get your score in your test sheet, and even still enjoy it after the test sheet. Like on the show team, we have some individuals that may like as soon as a student's out, they're like da, 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 da. When one of my students comes out, I just like I say good job, and then let them go take care of their horse, and then maybe at the end of the day when there's some quiet time and they're away from the test, there's been some time to like process it, maybe watch their video, then we sit down and we debrief. And then we also debrief right after the show, like their very next lesson. So like don't attack your performance right away. I don't think that's healthy. And I think that's
Yeah.
also a part of the nerves, like just enjoy the fact you got to ride this beautiful creature in the sun and what a great opportunity. I think that's so important. But I
Yeah, and
think that's
find the
a
joy
part
in
of
it,
the nerve.
find the positives in it, even if if something's going to go wrong. You reminded me when you were saying that of back in the Stone Ages, a long time ago when I showed. I remember it was a recognized show, and I remember warm up went, but I just knew this horse was going to buck. I just knew this horse was going to buck in the test, and so I'm headed over to the arena or whatever, and oh, everybody's like, oh, you're going to do great, have fun, and I go, he's gonna buck. And they're like, no, why would you say that? Blah 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 blah. And I was just like, because I know
It's
he's
gonna
gonna
happen.
buck. And like I just said, he's gonna buck in the canter depart. I can just tell he's just gonna be. I can just tell this is gonna be. He's fine in the warm up, but yeah, I think he's just gonna let one rip in the show ring. Well, sure enough, he bucked, and of course, I'm sitting up there, and of course, just move him on, and don't. It's not like he took off bucking; he just bucked once or whatever, and out of the corner of my ear, I hear everybody go, and I started laughing in the middle of the test.
Yeah, it's fun.
I just smiled. I just smiled because I just found it funny. Because I was like, I knew he was going to do it, and I was okay with it. Like, I was like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it was no big deal. And the judge commented, I think, at the end of the test, and probably also wrote on the test or whatever, like, loved your attitude, after the disobedience or whatever, and you know what I mean. And I just laughed.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? It's one movement. And you know what? It was hilarious. You know what I mean? So you kind of like, it's so important to try to find if something doesn't go well, like a buck, or the horse bolts for 3 strides or something, find the humor in it.
That's fun.
I mean, it's funny. It's like, okay, but like it's so hard to say that to yourself. And I know that it takes a lot of people, everybody's got a different mentality on it, but I'm like, find the humor in it and realize that's one movement, one score. Okay, he blew this for a 4. Let's go make everything else a 7, 7, 5, or an 8, right? I mean, ride
Yeah.
for the let's ride to make up points. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's hard to get through. But you said so many times, find if it's not fun, don't do it. Like, find
Yeah.
the fun in it.
Definitely.
Focus
Well,
on the
and
positives and laugh at the negatives and have some
yeah,
fun.
it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money. It should be fun, and I do find as I watch my students and they get so nervous, like they create their own problems. And you're like, what are you doing? Don't do that, and they really create the issues. They make their bad thoughts their destiny or their, truth when it isn't the truth, like,
Yeah.
okay, you've been training this way for 3 months, nothing's happened, and now you're worried about it at the horse show. But, like I said, that's hard to do. You just have to keep going to the horse show, finding your routine, finding your comfort zone. And the other thing is maybe your comfort zone isn't showing. It's okay
Right.
to not show. If you find showing is not fun, then don't show.
Yeah.
Have fun with your horse at home at a clinic. If a clinic is less nerve-wracking. So don't forget that either.
I'm
Because
trying to find a way
showing,
to raise my computer here because I'm like,
I know, and mine, I
there we
didn't
go.
make it to the house, so I don't have a stand. So I'm actually holding it. So I apologize
Oh
if
no, you're
I'm a
doing good.
little
I
bit
just wanted to raise it so I didn't feel like I was like looking
looking
down at you.
down.
A box
No
works.
worries.
So
Yeah.
do you find, Megan, are you nervous like the hours before you even get in the saddle? You got your show nerves, or is there a point where you are finally like, you kind of settle in and the nerves kind of disappear and it's game on?
Hmm. I don't know. Well, I mean, it depends. Like, it used to be that I was super nervous when I was a young rider. I would actually vomit. Like,
Ooh.
Ugh, like why did I even show? But
That's extreme.
yeah,
That's extreme anxiety. And maybe we should kind of talk more about that. Like some people, you can have all kinds of really difficult, like reactions, and maybe difficult reactions isn't the right phrase that I mean, but yeah, I mean, you could end up, you know, nauseous, vomiting,
I couldn't eat before my rides. Like, if I ate any food, and that was my younger years. And now, like, I think it depends, um, if the horse has been in training for a long time and like we're taking the horse out for a really special event, that's kind of like their first Prix St. George or their first Grand Prix, but I'm not to the like I just get butterflies in my stomach. And then usually by like if you're walking the warm up, maybe a little bit nervous, and then you just focus on the things you need to focus in on. I went to California in 2017, and I got to compete against all the people that I look up to, that you read in the magazines, and I was never nervous. I was just smiley, like but I wanted to do well. I knew it was on the live stream, but so I'd get like little butterflies. But other than that, I was like, yay, I'm here. This is where I should be. This is so much fun. So I really find an extreme joy. Like now the local shows, it's like training at home. It's just my Silverwood Hotel is what we call it. It's just, I've been there for 30 years. So, yeah, it's
absolutely.
not a big deal.
So Pete wants to know what would you have done if you hadn't pursued this equestrian career?
I have no idea. I like to think that I would be a private eye or like a
Oh,
CSI, yeah, or an interior decorator, but I don't think I would have liked that. Like I like, you know, designing my own barn, but I don't think I would have liked that for someone else. So yeah. But other than that, I'm right where I should be. I should have always been a horse trainer.
so you never said, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a
Never.
doctor.
I did want to be a vet until
Okay.
I was like 8 years old, and we got our new barn, and I had two events happen. The horse overnight put its foot through the wall, our
Ooh,
brand 2 week old stalls. And so then we had to take it to the hospital, and it had a the bone chip removed, and we were wrapping it for like 8 months. And the blood and the pus, I was like, mm. And then I had another horse get out, and obviously when the horse gets out, they don't have thumbs, so they didn't pull the latch back. And so he cut his side. That's why I have hooks on every stall. And when the vet came to sew him up and there was blood, I was like, I'm out. I'm like, I'm getting woozy. And so I was like, no way. And I was on the fence about being a horse trainer or a vet. So horse trainer it is. I wanted to go to the Olympics.
sure.
So here we are. Instead, I have a riding arena and I ride beautiful horses every day.
So you didn't want to be a scientist or
Never.
dig up dinosaur bones in the desert or
Mm.
an astronaut or
Nope, I wanted to ride horses.
how about a rodeo clown?
That
That's a
would
lot
be
of
fun.
work. That would be
That would
fun.
be fun. But
That's a lot of work.
I'm not a fast runner. Like
Yeah, yeah. You have to be fast
I'm
and
pretty
agile,
slow.
and yeah, that's hard
I
work.
didn't Yeah, I don't want to be stuck in an arena with something that wants to hurt me because they
Wait,
probably run.
wait, what? Wait.
My horses don't want to kill me. They love me. No, I want to be in an arena with horses that love me, but not no.
Not a 1,200 or 2,000 pound bull or 2,500 pound bull. Yeah, yeah,
No, no, I'm good. I'm good.
yeah, yeah. So you find that the butterflies, but nothing, It doesn't, it maybe switches off about the time you're heading into the warm-up ring or about the time you're heading up into the show ring, or
2 minutes after the warm-up. After I start trotting and cantering, the nerves go away.
I remember being very butterflies, semi-nauseous. As soon as my butt hit the saddle, all gone. It was like that familiarity of, this is my horse, this is my saddle, everything is familiar. I get to ride more, you know what I mean? So I think it's just so different for everybody that it's hard to say, but he said kidding. So have you had attended or hosted like workshops, clinics, symposia, whatever, where you really kind of sat and maybe went through with a psychologist or something, because I think that's talked about. I just think about articles and magazines I've seen over the years or videos and talking really about the psychology of showing and the show nerves.
Oh, I had I've always wanted to host a clinic with one that rides, and I actually messaged her for like 3 years and could never get a date. But I had a wonderful client in the barn who was a psychologist, and she kind of helped me through that, just with visualization and determining. She had asked me, is it, who are you really afraid of? Like what are the show nerves? Is it people or is it people you don't know that are watching you?
This makes me think of, I think what I'm really thinking of is I've read over the years, and most recently, I think there's been, I probably read this online, but, like the top level are athletes in the sport, coming back from like an Olympics or a World Cup, World Equestrian Games, they've been at the top of their sport. And let's just, 2 examples. Let's talk about American Laura Graves and let's talk about Charlotte Dujardin. So American Laura Graves, her horse, Bernardis, or Diddy as she calls him, they were absolutely the top rider for the United States. She recently had to retire him. On the flip side, Charlotte Dujardin and her horse, Blueberry, I think they call him, right?
Yeah.
Top horse in the world. He too aged, basically, both horses pretty much aged out and were retired. And I believe Laura and even those before her on the American team, I think even Stephen Peters has talked about this. I think Debbie McDonald's talked about it. The head game that plays with you. And I know Charlotte Dujardin has talked about, like, she had major anxiety and depression that followed after, like, she was under so much pressure. She suddenly was the best rider and horse combination in the world and did so well for so many years. And the horse was retired. And then it was like, I think it's the head game. And she did talk a lot. I think she did some articles, some interviews, videos. She did stuff online. She even talked on her own social media about what that did psychologically. And I think even Laura's kind of mentioned, like I said, a number of Americans, I think Stephen Peters in the last 4 years has talked about it. He's had a number of horses do well and then get retired, and he gets another one coming up and does really well. And then that one, you know what I mean? And I think it becomes a different type of nerves. Just from the pressure of suddenly you are so well known. And that, like the minute you're on the showgrounds, everybody's just, you don't get a moment's peace because you're just being watched, because like you are that person and that combination. And so
I'm sure that's huge, but I also think that happens to everyone in terms of each of these individuals have met their goals. And now what do they do? So there's a sense of depression, and anxiety of what's going to happen next. So, like, for instance, I see it with my own students. Like their biggest goal was like a USDF bronze medal, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they've been working however long, years to get that medal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they accomplish it, and now what? So there's that depression of like the goal isn't there. What am I working towards? I actually completed it. So I think that happens to everyone. Obviously it's at a different level for Stefan and Charlotte, and Laura, because everyone's watching you, and you.
Make this personal. I have a question for you. So I'm reading our description, of course, on my phone, of your accomplishments. So in 2014, you were national champion with the horse Kingsley.
Yeah.
So you did you feel? I mean, it's been 6 years, but when you were leading the country with that horse, did you feel that every time you went to a horse show, people were staring at you because you were that person to beat?
Well, actually, that's interesting because I've always been the underdog. Most people don't take it seriously, or I've ridden Frisians, and they don't have high expectations. And I've actually had, like some mean comments. Like I competed at Devon that same year, and one of my owners was talking to another trainer, and they were like, "Why did you bother coming from Wisconsin? You're not going to do well." And,
So that's a geographical
mhm.
bias that
Yeah.
nothing good comes from. That there are areas you can only be good in certain areas of the country, right? I mean, that's a
And
geographical bias.
and for me, that works really well. I like people to tell me I can't do something, and then usually I do. I think as a competitor, I had a lot of anger when I was younger, to prove like I have value,
Yeah,
and that I am
make
just
your
as good as
niche, make your niche in your
anyone else.
business, right?
Yeah. And then the year that I was riding Kingsley, it was the first time I scored an 80%.
Mm-hmm.
And, most of the time people just kind of left me alone. I'm definitely never been an it girl. And so, like I'm comfortable there. Like I'm bebopping around. I just love being with my horse. And then all of a sudden it actually did happen. The ring steward at Silverwood, she was like, "Oh no, it's Megan. Everybody should leave. She's going to win the class." And I had never, ever had anyone say something like that to me. And literally, I messed up my class because I was like, what in the world is she talking about?
Yeah.
Like I'm just a girl riding my horse. And then, yeah, so that really kind of wigged me out. And then after we won the national championship, then you have like this, I don't know, this anxiety of wanting to do well at the next level, and it didn't happen.
Sure.
The owner had to sell the horse, and then you have like this, oh no, now what do I do? I want to stay at the top. So it's really hard. Yes.
So let's talk about that. Let's say you have a client with a really pretty fancy horse that's done very, very well, and uh, horse gets sold and maybe doesn't leave the area, and you have to kind of sit and be beat, maybe be beat the next season by the horse. I mean, is that play any kind of mind games, or are you just like, is what it
No,
is?
no. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, yes. But unfortunately, that's the nature of our business. If as a trainer, it doesn't make it easy. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think we each have ways that we deal with it, like our grief, or mourning, like the loss of the ride, the loss of the dream you had.
Right.
For me, actually going back, this is for everyone. You need to acknowledge what your problem is. Like what is creating that anxiety, that fear. Like, so, okay, the horse is gone. Like you knew that when you sold the horse. I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. And I'm a horse trainer. Like I know my business. when I have a horse in training, or I'm lucky enough to have an owner that or a sponsor that pays for me to show the horse, I know it can end. But I also know it can end with any horse because we have things called colic,
Oh, yeah.
or there's injury. So I think I don't focus on those things. That's another thing. It wasn't until I started having clients that we started having problems because I don't think about these things. The only thing I have room in my brain for is to think about what I want to do, whether it's suppling, bending, collecting, teaching a flying lead change, going to a championship. I just plot it out, and I don't have time to think about the other things that people think about. I think that's so important. And then when we all have negative voices, when that negative voice pops up, because it's going to, whether you completed your goal, you've had an injury, you just have to like own it. I said it. That's what I'm thinking. And now, how am I going to get over it? Like how am I going to how am I going to get through it? And really pay attention to how you talk. I think that's so important, is like um when I talk to my students, I'm like, what are you afraid of? And they're like, falling off. Okay, let's say you fall off. What's the worst thing that can happen? Break a bone. Okay, what are you going to do when you break a bone? Like just analyze the situation, either accept it or don't ride. Yeah, yeah, and just move through it. I think that's so important. So like when a horse gets sold, um, I think there's a really good quote that I'll probably get wrong, because I always do. And that
You can
is,
paraphrase.
yeah, I'll paraphrase. Be grateful for the dance that you had. Don't mourn the loss of it. I mean, I'm just grateful for the opportunities I get. And then when they're over, they're over.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, um, I have a couple of questions. I'm trying to figure out which direction to go in. So, you're a USDF certified instructor. Do
Yeah.
you guys talk at all about this kind of thing at all in the workshops and the homework, the online training you need to do?
Nope.
I didn't.
That
I
would
didn't
be,
think you did. I mean, because there's only
yeah,
so
there's
much you can
so
talk
much
about that.
material. But that would be a
Yeah,
great add-on. That would
absolutely,
be
absolutely.
super.
So let me go in a totally different direction, and this just makes me think of the years of just basically being in the business. You've got, I think, obviously, millions of different types of coaches or trainers, but um, we'll just call one east, one west. You've got the type, you're trying not to pressure your clients. You're trying to have them have a good day, and then you've got trainers who are like, you didn't win, you know what I mean, and are like, you are embarrassing me. This is my barn. You are showing under my barn's name, and how dare you screw this up? So, like, how do you, like, let's say you've got somebody who's showing in their first year, and they maybe witness that from a somebody down the aisle. You've got a training different barn, maybe down the show aisle, and
That happened this year.
they witness that, and I mean that can absolutely just devastate people who have nothing to do with that training barn, because I think it just suddenly, like, oh my god, is Megan gonna like think that of me?
No, no,
How do you
that actually
have that
happened.
conversation and say, ooh, look, ignore that, that's terrible, we are not like that? I mean, how do you deal with that with your
No,
clients?
no, I try not to ignore things. I think that's best. Never ignore things. I actually had that happen this year. We were in the warm up, and I think I was warming up the horse, and my clients were watching or holding the green bag, and there was a trainer. I didn't hear any of this because when I'm working, I'm pretty focused
Sure.
on what I'm doing at a horse show. That the trainer was telling her client some really not nice things in the warm up, and then she went in, obviously had a bad ride, because of course when someone tells you everything you are bad at before you go in the arena, That's what you're going to be thinking about. And then she left and had a bad ride. And the trainer again was like, I can't believe you rode that way. That was absolutely terrible. And so two of my clients actually came up to me and they just were like, actually three, thank you for not being that way. So, and actually, it was helpful for me and my relationship with my clients. Yeah. So it didn't bother them at all. They were actually more grateful towards Lindinhof and being in my program and only made us stronger, in my opinion. And honestly, I had coaches like that when I was younger. I never really had a good mentor. And so but I have
Sometimes though,
a different
when you have
temperament.
that situation where
Yeah.
you don't have a good mentor, you kind of go, I want to make sure I'm not like that when I grow up, right?
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons I am the way I am. Although I've yelled at a few students, like don't get me wrong, like there are
Well,
people
there's always a time where,
that need that little, but it
yeah.
not mean. You know, this was mean, and I've had a few mentors that have been mean, and but with my temperament when I was younger, it actually spurred me on to do better. I'm not saying it's healthy by any means. I'm not recommending this for anyone. It was just my path, and it really made me much stronger. And then one day I woke up and I was like, I'm a good student. I try really hard. Why am I accepting this nasty behavior towards me? And then I found someone else. Ironically, I found someone who was quite similar but wasn't in the beginning. And now I have a really great mentor who is never, she's only been very, very supportive in anything. And I can ask her questions when I need help and doesn't belittle me. But honestly, I think that's just what I needed. To be like, look, I am a good person and I really am a good student. I'm trying to do my best and I deserve better. And so I think sometimes people need to figure that out. And so they do. I did.
So I remember when I was a kid and we didn't have the internet and social media, and the Olympics weren't on TV at that time. And so everything I was basically learning about dressage was, a lot of it was magazines, articles, monthly articles, and then finding barns and trainers, and going to horse shows and watching, and that whole thing. And I remember back kind of when the sport was still not in its total infancy here in the U.S., because I'm not that old, but it was really young. Like not too many people owned warm bloods. Like
Yeah, they were
now,
thoroughbreds.
right? They're
Yeah.
everywhere. Everybody's got one. I mean, it was like, so it was, quarter horses and Arabs, and, like nobody knew what they were doing. It was very hard to find coaches because, I mean, it was truly difficult to find anybody that knew anything because, one, America's huge, and two, like the sport was so new to our country. So when we did find people, and back in that day, it was like, you know, you need to find someone who trained in Germany because they're the only ones that know anything about dressage. It
Yeah.
was, that was what I was told, and blah blah blah. Or and it was like, when you did find somebody who either had gone to Germany and trained for years, or was a German that came to America to settle here and to open a training barn, whatever, like the mentality was to be nasty. And so, like, the only experience I had in it was just seeing, like, the only kind of training anybody was ever going to get was just negative, negative. You stink, you stink, you stink. It was just never positive reinforcement. It was just like, you are an American who doesn't know what you're doing. You're a terrible rider. You're an embarrassment. Blah, blah, you know what I mean? I mean, it was just, and I
Well,
find that some of those people, those people in that generation are very, aging out of the sport. They're long retired. They're passing. I mean, this was like truly, I was really young, and we're obviously America is doing really well. I mean, we've medaled, we're doing well. We've learned a lot, we've got a lot of people now that are amazing trainers. I mean, look at the USDF certification for instructors. That program um, is doing really well because we finally have an amazing group of people in the US that know what they're doing in this sport. But like what I'm basically getting at is like, I feel like it was like the only way to be considered a serious or good instructor was to just be nasty.
Well, I think we got to look at the history. It is coming from the military. And so you break people down and you build them back up. And I
Mm-hmm.
think in our current culture, you can't do that, number one. But number two, I'm not saying it's right either, but I do think, if you come out of that culture, that's what makes you. And so then it's now you've earned your right to, do the same things that your coaches did to you. They might not be the same mentality as myself. But then the other thing is you have to look at how we train horses. If we come out every day and we, throw on 6 different reins and we have 2 whips and we have 2 spurs that are, spears, like eventually you don't like your job. And if you're an instructor and your student comes out every day and you tell them everything you do wrong, you know, they're eventually not going to come back to you, and they may even stop the sport. The other interesting thing that I've read in terms, because I have done a little bit of reading to help my own self, is that when teaching someone, and really think about this, when you're the student and you're learning, what do you really hear? What are you grasping? And I read somewhere 9 times out of 10, the student's takeaway will always be negative from your lesson. So I took that to heart and I actually experimented on my clients like 15 years ago because I read this article like 15 years ago. And so I just taught a lesson and most of the, and I'm like, I didn't think it was negative at all, but their takeaway was it was negative. And so then I really started to do in my training is, putting in positive sentences, something positive that I don't lie, but I say positive things. And I really made sure that 50% of the lesson, I was like, then their takeaway was better. And then I actually try to do 70, is it 70? No, 60-40, 60 to 70 positive, right? That they have done well. And when we criticize or when we critique, we have to be careful how we're doing it because like I think when I teach a lesson, I don't think it's personal at all. You're coming to me to become better and I have to tell you just like a judge, I observe you're doing this. You need to do these things to improve and this is how you do it. But when the student is taking the lesson, they take it as a negative. And so you have to make sure, number one, how you're delivering that message and that there is a balance in the lesson. And think of it as our horses. If we come out and only abuse them, they're not going to flourish. And of course, I think, yeah, with that change in culture and that we're getting further and further away each generation, that it's not a military anymore, um, that people are flourishing, and then the other component is learning how your student learns, like figure because each student is so different and how they take that information. Are they verbal? Are they visual? Or are they kinesthetic, that they have both? And they have to feel it. And so making sure you know how that student learns is so important, I think. And then you, the trainer, the teacher, just like the trainer has to adapt to the horse.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. And whereas 25 years ago, the student had to adapt to the
Yeah.
instructor. There was only one way. And we found that I mean, yeah, the system should be the same, like in terms of the aids, but how you learn is something totally different. Same thing with the
Yeah.
horse.
Yeah. That's a bit of a rabbit hole, but Well, I mean, we're supposed to be kind of talking about, nerves and anxiety, but I think that all ties into it. As if you're just, it's just nonstop criticism. I can't even imagine like having
Well, yeah, if you
having
don't have a
any
good
joy or fun in
environment.
going to a horse show.
Yeah. If you're not coming from a good environment and you don't feel like you have a good supportive coach, then you already know the answer.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no. No, I
Yeah.
think we covered all the bases tonight, don't you?
I think so. I mean, like we
Yeah.
said, we're not clinical psychologists, we're not psychiatrists. This isn't like our forte to, solve that kind of problem. But, I think taking the bull by the horns and addressing it and saying, you know what, even you as a professional, you have show anxiety and nerves.
We all
It's
do.
not,
Yeah.
it's human nature, and it doesn't have to be bad. And um, try to find the joy in it, or don't be ashamed to say, you know what, it's not for me. I
Yeah.
don't like you've got clients that are just like, I don't like showing. It's too much stress. They psych themselves out or whatever.
Well, yeah, and as a trainer, here, I like the balance. I love people who are just pleasure riders that don't want to show because let me tell you, during the show season, shows encourage bad riding. On the off season is when we go back to basics and you really work on yourselves. And there's a lot of pressure. It doesn't flow. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with not showing.
I guess one thing I didn't ask, and I'm just going to do it because why not? Do you ever like? There are people who cannot fly in an airplane without like a Xanax or some kind of a something to take the wind out of their sails so that they don't lose their mind on an airplane. Have you had students that just they have to have some kind of medication so that they just don't have a panic attack or a total meltdown anxiety attack?
I've
um
had one. I don't recommend it. If you have to do that to compete, then why? Like,
yeah,
why put yourself through that?
absolutely.
But that's my opinion. But each to his own.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and back in the day, I spent years in an eventing barn, and there, I don't want to pigeonhole any sport or anything, but I think they're pretty laid back, and they tend to party, even in the
Yeah.
show barn on the showgrounds. And a lot of times they're cracking open a wine cooler 2 hours before their ride, and that or even 2 hours after, but whatever. But that can't happen at a rated show anymore. I mean, back in the day, that was a long time ago. I don't want to date myself, but that was a long time ago. That was a really long time ago. But you can't do that. You know. So, like you said, I think if it comes to the point of where you need some sort of chemical intervention, there's no longer the joy in it, and it's just not. If there's no joy in it, don't do it. Like, just
Yeah.
ride, take
Right.
lessons, go do clinics, and don't put that pressure on yourself, right?
I'm
And
with you. Go on a
if
trail
your
ride.
coach is pressuring you and says you have to show, it might be time to find a new coach, right?
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
So yeah. So I don't know, any other words of wisdom, Megan, show nerves, anxiety overall in general for showing.
No, just do it. You'll
Do
be
it or don't
fine.
do it, right?
Yeah. Do it or don't do it. Make a decision and just have fun, man. Showing's fun. So,
Try it,
yeah, I think that's it.
right? Dip your toe in the water and try it. And if you find
Yeah,
you don't like it, right? I mean,
don't do
don't say,
it.
don't psych yourself out and say, well, I just don't think I think I'll be a basket case, therefore I don't ever want to try it. I do think people need to try it because it is
Yeah,
fun. It really
I
is.
think
Find
it's
the joy
fun.
in it. Find a way to laugh at the bad and enjoy the good. And all that. But yeah, so well, thank you, Megan. As
You're
always,
welcome.
I think this is a lot of fun. I hope people when they come back and they stream this on demand that they find it kind of amusing. And we always tell people, if you did miss a live and you have questions, post them below on the YouTube, on the video on YouTube, post them in the comments on YouTube, even if it's 2 weeks or 2 months after we've made this video. We'll get notified of it. And, I can always come back and say, hey, Megan, somebody asked a question, can you go to this video and take a look at their question they had on there. And you've done that. You've gone back in and answered questions after the fact. So, by all means, people, feel free to do that. Or, they can shoot me an email through my channel on YouTube. You as well. They can contact you. We have all your information below. But why don't you go ahead, Megan, let everybody know what's the easiest way for them to find you?
Sure. My cell phone number is 608-445-8531. Text message is great. Email lindenhofllc@gmail.com. My website, which is lindenhof.com. And then YouTube, we're on Lindinhof 1. So just check us out.
And then
and Facebook.
you have a Facebook page, right?
Yeah, we got a Facebook page, Lindinhof Equine Sports Syndrome. So yeah, you can get a hold of me multiple ways.
Find you on the page, and then they can message you through Facebook there as well. So yeah, appreciate it so much. It's been we started doing this in the pandemic, and it's hard to believe, but I think it's been probably like 5-6 months of doing this. I mean, we've missed a few weeks here and there for holiday. Well, I think so. I feel like it's probably been at least 5. We've missed a few weeks here and there, horse shows, holidays. We missed last week because obviously, regionals. There was just no reason to try to interrupt things. But yeah, it's been a while. So, as always, we're always looking to ask people, is there a topic you want us to talk about? We're always looking for ideas on that. I mean, I think we're kind of trying to circle back, and we've done some fun in-person stuff. I'll have to see if we can continue doing that before it gets too cold out. But
let's do it.
Let us know. Let either one of us know if you've got ideas. We'd appreciate it so much. So thanks, Megan, for another fun one. And I hope you're doing well. Say hi to the friends and family. And I'll pop you off here. So thank you, Megan.
Okay, bye.
Good night. So, yep. Thanks, guys, so much. Again, if you're watching this on demand, hope you, please enable the ads and allow those to run. YouTube very much appreciates being paid. They let us do this for free. So, excuse the mess downstairs in the basement here. But thanks, guys, so much. We will see you guys on the next live stream. Have a great night.